Can you damn yourself through righteousness? Can you fall into hell while trying to save heaven? The answer is yes. Her name is Zariel. The angel who invaded hell lost everything and made a choice that would reshape the cosmic order itself. Let's descend into Avernus. The morning began ordinary. A stable hand wiped sweat from his brow, finishing work early. The smell of fresh bread drifted across the yard. Then the screaming started. A creature burst from the tree line, 7 feet of matted fur, with a hyena's twisted grin. The stable hand had heard stories of gnolls his entire life, never believed them. The creature covered the distance in heartbeats. Claws found flesh before he could scream. The town fought back. Farmers grabbed pitchforks, the militia their spears. They formed lines like heroes were supposed to. Buildings burned anyway, bodies fell. And through the smoke came laughter, wild and hideous. From the haze emerged something massive, a colossal gnoll swinging a 3-headed flail that trailed gore. Ye-No-Gu, demon lord of savagery, walked among mortal dwellings like a man through tall grass. A priest collapsed in the ruins, blood running from a dozen wounds. No weapon, no strength, only prayers whispered to a god he hoped was listening. The demon lord stopped, yellow eyes narrowed as he looked skyward. Light split the smoke. Then she descended, not gently, but like a meteor of righteous fury given form. Zariel struck before Ye-No-Gu could react, her blade carving through demon flesh. Words of power fell from her lips and space tore open behind him. She drove the demon lord backward through the portal, which sealed with a sound like breaking glass. The remaining gnolls scattered. Angels descended from above. The fiends died quickly. Victory, swift and absolute. But Zariel hovered above what remained. 23 dead. 11 wounded beyond saving. She'd seen this scene before. Different towns, same ending. Good arrives, good avenges. The dead remain dead. She descended and walked among the ruins. The priest who had prayed still knelt in the ash, tears cutting lines through soot on his face. "Thank you, lady." "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner." The priest tried to smile, failed, collapsed forward. She caught him, held his hand as the light left his eyes. When his breathing stopped, she stood, looked at the smoking timbers, the pooling blood, the flowers somehow still blooming in a window box. Something inside her hardened toward a question she could no longer ignore. Why was she always arriving after the screaming stopped? In Mount Celestia's 4th layer, the solar Ammonials stood before a council of archons. Zariel knelt at the chamber's center. "You grow reckless," Ammoniel said, his voice carrying concern without anger. 3 times this month you've descended without authorization. Yesterday you engaged a demon lord directly. The town would have been destroyed whether you arrived or not. Zariel's jaw tightened. "Some survived because I came. Some survivors is not victory, it is luck." Ammoniel descended the steps. "Explain to me why we don't engage the blood war directly." Zariel stood, met his gaze. "The blood war occupies both demons and devils. If we interfere, we risk tipping the balance. Let evil fight evil. Maintain equilibrium." Yes, the cosmos operates on principles older than mortal civilization. If we descended to prevent every death, we'd be fighting infinite war on infinite fronts. We'd lose perspective, lose ourselves, ultimately lose everything we protect. So, we do nothing. We do what can be done without unraveling reality's fundamental order. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You must trust in the greater wisdom. Sometimes inaction serves good more than action." Zariel said nothing. Ammoniel took her silence for acceptance. She left with doubt coiling in her chest like smoke. For centuries she'd followed orders, observed the blood war from sanctioned distances, watched demons and devils tear at each other while their conflicts spilled into countless mortal realms. She'd also become an expert in arriving too late. When next she descended, it was to El Turel, a realm that had suffered under fiendish raids for generations. This time she arrived during the raid, not after. The paladins who stood against demons fought with courage but lacked training. She taught them. They drove the fiends back. El Turel knew peace. Among those she trained was Haruman, a farmer's son who'd survived by hiding in a root cellar while demons burned his family's fields. "I can't stop shaking," he admitted after a difficult drill, "even knowing it's practice. My hands won't stay still." "Fear is honest," Zariel told him. "Use it. You're never afraid." "I'm afraid of arriving too late, of finding only bodies when I could have prevented it." He looked at her then, really looked. Then why do you always arrive alone? Where are the others like you? The question lingered. Months passed. Elturel remained safe. But reports came from other realms, demon raids, devil cults, the same pattern repeating. And she kept thinking about Haruman's question. The idea grew from ember to flame. If celestial hosts wouldn't act, perhaps mortals would. Not as victims, but as an army trained to strike at the source. When she called for volunteers, Haruman stepped forward first. "You understand what I'm proposing?" she asked. "You want us to invade hell. I want to prove righteousness can stand in the lower planes, that we don't have to wait for evil to come to us." Haruman's hands still shook slightly. "My ma died screaming while I hid. My little sister, too. Maybe I can't stop shaking. Maybe I'll be scared every day, but I'm done hiding." Others joined. A warrior named Jander who'd lost his wife to a devil cult. Thousands more, each carrying their own scars. They called themselves the Hell Riders. Zariel trained them like never before. Celestial formations, devil weaknesses, fighting without breaking under hellfire. She blessed their weapons, reinforced their armor, drilled them until they moved as one force. "Most of us won't come back," Jander said one evening. "No," Zariel agreed. "Most of you won't. Doesn't matter. Better to die pushing back than waiting to be overrun." When the day came, Zariel stood before thousands assembled in disciplined companies. She promised nothing but purpose, a chance to strike at evil's heart. She mounted her golden steed, raised her blade, and tore open space. Beyond lay Avernus. The first moments went exactly as planned. A devil patrol never saw them coming. Zariel's blade took 3 before they could react. The Hell Riders cut down the rest. Beyond, an infernal legion was reforming after recent engagement. The devils were focused inward, dealing with wounded and dead. The Hell Riders struck their rear guard like a hammer. Jander's company held the left flank in perfect formation. Haruman's took the right. The infernal legion shattered. Devils scattered, their strict hierarchy dissolving under unexpected assault. The Hell Riders took the battlefield. Haruman stood over a fallen devil, breathing hard. "We did it. Stay in formation," Zariel ordered. "This was a patrol. The real test comes next." The ground trembled. Across the ridge, banners rose. Black standards marked with infernal script. Then the legion appeared, row upon row of devils in perfect formation. Thousands. At its head, a pit fiend 12 feet tall surveyed the battlefield. Behind it, the legion advanced in absolute silence save for rhythmic marching. "Hold formation," Zariel's voice cut through rising panic. "Interlocking shield wall." The Hell Riders moved into defensive positions. Months of training guided them. Shields locked, spears lowered. It looked perfect. The pit fiend raised one clawed hand, dropped it. The Devil Legion didn't charge. They shifted formation, companies peeling left and right with mechanical precision. The center held, while the wings began flanking maneuvers that would envelop the Hell Riders entirely. "Jander, refuse your left flank." The companies pivoted, trying to extend their line. But the devils moved faster, with coordination born from executing this exact maneuver for millennia. Every adjustment the Hell Riders made, the devils countered perfectly. Arrows fell, precisely targeted volleys at gaps opening in the mortal formation. Every gap they plugged opened 2 more. Their disciplined formations were being used against them, their cohesion becoming weakness as devils compressed them into tighter space. Then the pit fiend attacked. It struck at the exact moment 3 companies were repositioning when the shield wall had temporarily fragmented. The massive devil crashed through, its greatsword reaping mortals like wheat. Zariel dove to intercept. Her blade met the pit fiend's, celestial steel against hellfire. While she fought their commander, the legion pressed their advantage. Bearded devils locked shields and advanced like a wall of blades. Bone devils flew overhead, dropping into gaps. Everywhere the Hell Riders turned, devils were already positioned, already executing counters. Haruman's company held longer than most. He'd positioned them on elevated ground, using terrain to offset numbers. But a bone devil descended behind their line, tail lashing. Haruman turned to face it, his blessed blade catching the creature across its skeletal torso. The bone devil's return strike was faster. Its tail punched through his armor, injecting venom that dropped him to one knee. "Hold," he gasped. "Reform on me." The shield wall fractured. Without their leader, the company wavered. Bearded devils pushed through the gap. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Disciplined mortals fighting with courage and skill, breaking under pressure that never relented. Jander's company broke and ran. The organized retreat became panicked flight. Half the force fled toward the portal. The other half was surrounded. Above, Zariel fought with everything she had. She saw the opening, drove her sword toward the pit fiend's neck. She didn't see its offhand coming until the greatsword was already in motion. The hellfire blade took her hand at the wrist. The limbs separated, still gripping her sword, and fell toward scorched earth. Pain came after, blinding, absolute. Zariel's scream was fury and agonies mixed. She kicked away, wings beating to gain distance. Below, the remaining Hellriders died. They fought and fell, and the devils moved past their bodies like water around stones. Haruman, poisoned and bleeding, was crawling toward a fallen comrade when a bearded devil's glaive ended his struggle. Jander made it halfway to the portal. Zariel dropped from the sky, scooped her sword from her severed hand, and drove toward the last cluster of survivors. Perhaps 30 remained. Go! She hurled her blade to the nearest warrior. Through the portal! Now! Her golden steed bore down on the survivors. They ran, some helping wounded, others dragging the barely conscious. The portal blazed ahead. Zariel turned to face advancing devils, hundreds now. She spread her wings wide, her remaining hand crackling with divine energy. No weapon, no backup, blood streaming from her stump. The devils didn't rush. They advanced slowly, savoring it, surrounded her completely, then struck as one. Consciousness returned slowly. Pain came first, the collar searing her neck, chains heavier than mortal strength could bear. Her arm ended in a cauterized stump. Devils surrounded her, keeping their distance. Then she understood why. The jeering stopped. Silence fell like physical weight. The devils retreated, expressions shifting from mockery to terror. She heard it before seeing its source. Soft, almost gentle. Drip, 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 blood falling onto stone. The air changed. Reality bent around a presence that shouldn't be possible. Then he stood before her, tall, elegant, robed in crimson and shadow. A black rod topped with blood-red ruby held loosely. 4 horns rose from his brow, his face almost handsome, until you saw his eyes, cold as the spaces between stars. Asmodeus, Lord of the 9 Hells. Zariel. Her name in his mouth sounded like judgment already past. How diminished you seem. She spat blood at his feet. I have nothing to say to you. Deceiver? He tilted his head slightly. An interesting accusation from one so recently deceived. Tell me, when you opened that portal, what did you think would happen? We would establish a foothold, prove righteousness could stand in the lower planes, that we don't have to wait for evil to come to us. And instead, you know what happened. Yes, but I wonder if you do. He began walking slowly around her. That young man, Haruman, wasn't it? Do you know what his last words were? Zariel said nothing. He asked for his mother, not for you, not for victory, just his mother, the way children do when they're frightened and dying. Asmodeus paused. Strange that. You promised them purpose, and in the end they wanted only comfort you couldn't provide. They knew the risks. Did they? You showed them visions of Avernus, certainly. But did you show them what failure looks like? Or did you believe your own mythology too much to consider the possibility? The words stung. Zariel forced herself to meet his gaze. Say what you came to say. I've come to ask, rather. He knelt before her. Do you know how many invasions of the 9 Hells I've witnessed? Thousands upon thousands. Do you know how many succeeded? None. Precisely none. And yet you believed your farmers and blacksmiths would prove different. Why? Because someone had to try. No. The word was soft, but absolute. That's the answer you tell yourself. Here's truth. You came because you were tired of following rules. You came because your pride demanded action over patience. You came because you confused your frustration with righteousness. That's not, isn't it? He stood, resumed his slow circuit. The Solar Amaniel tried to explain why restraint serves good. Did you listen? Or did you hear only justifications for inaction? Because inaction felt like failure, and you couldn't bear to fail. Zariel's jaw clenched. She wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Here's what I find curious. Your gods forbid interference in the blood war, yet you interfered anyway. They commanded observation. You chose action. And now you kneel here, having sacrificed thousands of lives to prove. He paused. What exactly? That you were right and they were wrong? I wanted to protect mortals. You wanted to feel useful. There's a difference. One serves others. One serves self. I've given everything. Have you? He stopped before her. You've given a hand, certainly, and the lives of everyone foolish enough to follow you. But the things you actually value, your certainty, your righteousness, your conviction that your way was better, those you held tight even as people around you died. Zariel tried to stand. The chains held her down. I've watched countless angels fall. Most fall to corruption, but a few fall to something more interesting. They fall because they cannot accept the limitations of good. They see a problem and must solve it. Never mind the consequences. Never mind the greater patterns. Action becomes its own morality. Better than doing nothing? Is it? Your crusade achieved what, precisely? A foothold that lasted minutes? Thousands dead? And for what grand purpose? To make yourself feel you'd done something. The accusation hung like smoke. Zariel wanted to deny it, but doubt had crept in. Had she led them to serve them, or to serve her own need to act? I fought for good, she said, but the words sounded hollow. You fought for ego. You fought because sitting still burned you more than failure could. You fought because you couldn't bear watching while others made decisions. And when given a choice between accepting your place or proving you were right, he gestured at the chains. Here we are. So, you offer damnation in exchange for admitting fault? I offer freedom from the lie. He extended his hand. Your gods demand you accept limitations. Call it balance, call it wisdom, whatever soothes their conscience while villages burn. I offer something simpler, power without apology. You tried their way. We both see where it led. I would serve in hell before I serve you. Would you? Interesting choice of phrasing. Zariel stared at the offered hand, at the chains, at the blood pooled around her knees. Consider, if you return to heaven, what changes? The blood war continues, villages burn, and you sit, bound by doctrine, while knowing you could act but mustn't. That's torment more exquisite than anything I could devise. And if I take your hand, you continue fighting, continue protecting, but this time with resources that match your will. My legions against the demons, your leadership against chaos. We've fought the abyss since before your gods created their first mortal. We understand this war. You want me to fight for evil. I want you to fight for order. Evil is a word good uses for methods they lack courage to employ. Order is what keeps reality from unraveling into demonic chaos. Zariel's remaining hand trembled. One more thing. He gestured, and an image formed. Haruman on his knees, poison spreading, reaching toward a fallen companion. He believed in you. They all did. And you led them here to die, proving a point. So, tell me, Zariel, which is worse? My honest damnation, or your righteous pride that killed everyone who trusted you? The image faded. Zariel looked at her stump, at the chains, at the Lord of the Nine Hells offering her a choice that was barely a choice at all. She thought of Haruman asking why she always arrived alone, of all the faces she'd memorized in all the burning villages across all the years. She thought of Amoniel explaining why patience served good, of the doctrine she'd followed for centuries before breaking it in one catastrophic gamble. She thought of returning to heaven in chains, of watching the war continue, of knowing she'd proven every warning about zealotry correct. Her hand reached out, touched Asmodeus's fingers. I accept. Hellfire erupted, not burning, but transforming, remaking her deeper than flesh. Her wings charred, feathers curling to ash, leaving leathery membranes. Her skin darkened, scarred, her halo twisted into a crown of living flame. Where her hand had been, hellfire coalesced into something new. She flexed it, felt power coursing through transformed flesh that no longer answered to celestial law. Somewhere deep inside, something screamed. The part that had once knelt in prayer, that had blessed mortals and sung hymns to the dawn. That part screamed in anguish. The scream grew distant, faded, died. Zariel, Archduchess of Avernus, rose from the ashes of the angel she'd been. The devils around her now knelt. She was their lord. She looked down at her new hand, wreathed in infernal fire, clenched it into a fist. She would continue fighting, would lead legions against the demons that had destroyed so many lives, would carve order from chaos with blade and fire, and will that would never again accept limitations. The Archduchess of Avernus still fights the blood war, leads devil legions with tactical brilliance that makes even pit fiends pause in respect. She has carved her name across the first layer of hell in letters written in demon ichor. Some say redemption remains possible, that buried beneath the devil she became, the angel she was still exists. But standing on the battlefields of Avernus, watching her legions march against the tide of chaos, one question remains. Does she want to be redeemed, or has she finally found the freedom to act she always craved and accepted the price that came with it?